Dear students, let us discuss here one experiment, that is charging and discharging of a capacitor. Here, in this experiment, we are studied to understand the role of a dielectric material which is placed in between the two plates of the capacitor. Usually, dielectric material, we have studied the dielectric about the dielectric materials in the theory part. So, dielectric materials are insulating materials. They are used to increase the capacitance of the capacitor in a capacitor, which is placed in or in insertion in between the plates of the capacitor. So charges are stored in the dielectric material in the form of electrostatic field. So here we are first understand what is known about the circuit and brief about the experiment. Here the paper capacitor is used. Paper is a dielectric material. Usually the value of the dielectric constant of the paper is around 2.5 to 4.5, 4.5, right? So let us know what is known as a dielectric constant. Dielectric constant is the ratio of the absolute permittivity to the permittivity of the free space. Or in other words, dielectric constant is defined as the ratio of the capacitance of the capacitor with a material medium to the capacitance of the same capacitor placed in a vacuum is known as the dielectric constant. The dielectric constant here we are determining from the equation given, that is K is equal to T off into D by A by 0.693 into epsilon naught into R. Here T off is the off lifetime, D and A. D is the distance between the two plates of the capacitor, and A is the surface area of the plate. So epsilon naught is the absolute permittivity, the value, permittivity of the free space, and R is the resistance used in the circuit. Look at the circuit and its connections. See in the circuit, look, this is the battery, this charging discharging key. This switch mode is used to charge the capacitor and discharge the capacitor. And this is another switch called S2. This is S1. S2 is called to halt the digital clock or to start the digital clock. This is a digital clock, and this is a voltmeter which is connected here. So look at the circuit as shown in the circuit diagram. Here we complete the circuit. We complete first battery and a charging discharging key and a halt clock and a resistor, a capacitor which is there are three capacitors among you have to connect one into the circuit and is connected to again a battery. So there are three resistors are given. Among this, use R1 as a resistor, C1 as a capacitor. This is connected to the circuit. And the voltmeter, this is voltmeter using patch cord. Connect the voltmeter to the digital voltmeter. The connection to the digital voltmeter. Look, V is connected as shown in the diagram, connected to the circuit. So V is DVM means digital voltmeter, and this is a digital clock. So by starting the experiment, we are first build up the circuit. So our aim is here to determine the dielectric constant of a dielectric material which is insertion in between the two plates of a capacitor. Look, as I said, so inside we can understand the circuit. These are the capacitors. There are three capacitors, 1, 2, 3. Among we use first one, and these are the three resistors. Among this first one we are used, its value is mentioned here. The R1 value is 100 kilo ohm and resistance value is not given. Say C1, that constant, dielectric constant of the material, dielectric material which is placed in the capacitor 1 is determined here using the equation given. K is equal to T of D by A divided by 0.693 epsilon naught R. Okay. Now come to the experiment. Very simple. Build up the circuit as shown in the circuit diagram. Very simple. By using a patch cord, as per the suitable, by using a suitable patch cord, build up the circuit. And this is a gap given. Okay. This is the source. Source actually AC is used, and AC source is stepped down to a lower value by using a step down transformer. It is stepped down to 5 volt. So 5 volt is the voltage supplied to the circuit. So that's why you won't get shock here. And connect the circuit as shown. Capacitor you have to, resistors you have to connect into the circuit by using a suitable patch cord. And this is a R1. So the value of the R1 is 100 kilo ohm. And now connect the capacitor into the circuit, that is C1 into the circuit. C1 here, look, plus you have to connect to the upper one, and the negative of the capacitor you connect to the ground point. All these are the ground point. The except everything is connected inside. Wherever line given, this is rubbed actually. Wherever line given is internally connected, and other things you have to connect using a patch cord. Now connect the voltmeter into the circuit. So negative of the voltmeter you have to connect to the ground point, and this positive of the voltmeter is connected to the here at positive end. This is the circuit. So this switch is given as called as a S1 switch. This one. This is for to connect the circuit and disconnect the circuit. So generally it is called as a charging and discharging mode. Say if you toggle this into a charging mode, so circuit is closed. So hence when circuit is switched on and charges are drawn from the battery to the capacitor. Till charges are flow from battery to capacitor till the charge on them are equal. Next, along simultaneously you start the second switch, that is S2, to toggle or to start the digital clock. Look at the circuit now. Dear students, so we are doing in the experiment part, and maybe you are familiar with the circuit. Look at the circuit. We are build up the circuit as per the circuit diagram, and this is a switch given S1, and this is for charging the capacitor and discharging the capacitor. Circuit, charge the circuit, open, close the circuit and open the circuit, and this is another switch 2, and this switch which is toggle to start the clock, digital clock. Now notice both the voltmeter which is connected across the capacitor and timer shows 0 0 0 0. So starting with this experiment, keep this for the charging mode. Now along with this key, when you have to switch on, toggle this into start position, so that both the timer and charges are flow from battery to capacitor. Okay, then voltmeter shows the value of the voltage across the capacitor which is charged. Okay, right, 0 0. For 5 seconds, you notice that what is the value of the voltmeter? It is 1.76. At 10th second, it is 2.77. At 15th second, it is 3.4. At every 5 seconds, once you note down the voltage. At 20th second, 3.87. At 25th second, the value of the voltage is 4.11. At 30th, it is 4.27. At 35th, 4.37. Yes. At 40th, it is 4.42. At 50th, 4.49, 4.46. At 55th second, it is 4.5. At 60th second, it is 4.51. At 65th second, 4.52. At 70th second, it is 4.53. At 75th is 4.52, little bit 53, say 53. At 80 second is 4.53. Now start this into, make this into 0 and bring this to discharge position. At 0 it was 4.51, 51 or 53, peak value note down. At 5, 2.80. At the 10th second it is 1.61. At 15th second is 1.04. At the 20th second, it is 0.66. At the 25th second, it is 0.38. At 30th second, it is 0.26. At 35th second, it is 0.16. At 40th, it is 0.1. Like it goes on, decreases exponentially. At 45th second, you note down the value 0.07. At 50, 0.03. At 55th, it is 0.03. At 60th, it is 0.02. At 65th, it is 0.02. At 70th, it is 0.01. Almost. At 75th, 0.01. Little charges is left, so almost at 80 it is 0. So means charges which is charged in the capacitor are stored in the dielectric medium of the capacitor is almost completely discharged. Means voltage across which is 0, it means that no charges is left, it is 0. Okay. So taking these set of readings, so it is the meaning of tabulating the reading. So you will have 5 marks for writing up the observation of the experiment, and 10 marks goes to set up experiment and conduction of experiment. Tabulating the readings 10 carries a 10 mark. The next part is using the data you are obtained, draw the graph, that is in a graph sheet, that is a time in second versus voltage in volts along the y-axis, time you take in the x-axis as shown in the figure. Take the suitable scale along x-axis, 1 centimeter you take 5 centimeter, and along y-axis 1 centimeter you take 5 volts. Using the data, draw the graph, you will get a one curve that is for charging and another curve for the discharging. You highlight the points for every points by putting a small circle for each and every point, and note down the draw the graph, smooth curve. The two curves, one for the charging and other one for the discharging, are intersecting here at a point P. You extrapolate this point to the x-axis, that is a T off. You have obtained the value of the T off from the graph. Now using this value and the same value T off is used in the equation given. Here R is the resistance connected into the circuit. The value of the resistance connected into the circuit is 100 kilo ohm. R is given. Epsilon naught is a constant. The value of the epsilon naught is equal to 8.85 into 10 to the power of minus 12. You are very familiar that, and this is a constant. D by A, this value is given because the capacitor is not possible to rewind again and again. The value of the capacitor is given by D by A is given by equal to, in the examination also this value is given by 3.54 into 10 to the power of minus 7 per meter. This value is given. Use the same value here, T of, that is from the experiment, and R, the value of the resistance which is used in the circuit, epsilon naught constant. Calculate K, you will get the dielectric constant of the dielectric medium or dielectric material, which is the insertion in between the two plates of the capacitor, is determined, using this one. So that is your aim. So your part is, there are 3 steps are you are followed here. You learn how to write the observation part, means this equation, abbreviation of this equation, circuit with a proper notation, sample graph with a proper xy axis, parameters etc., tabular column with a proper heading with the proper variable you should learn, and set up the experiment as shown in the diagram. You set up the experiment by using a patch cord, and performance of the experiment, perform the experiment, your data you collect from the experiment. Next, calculation part, draw the graph, you will have marks for drawing graph, and using the data from the graph you calculate the value of the K. The value of the K comes around 4, because the value of the paper, dielectric constant of the paper is around 2.5 to 4.5, so that you will get the same value K, that is called as a dielectric constant, which is known as the ratio of the capacitance of the capacitor with a material medium to the capacitance of the capacitor with a vacuum, is coming around 4. That's all your experiment. This experiment is determination of the rigidity modulus of the material of the wire or material of the wire. The material used here is iron, soft iron. So you are determining the rigidity modulus of the wire, iron wire. Actually, it's in this experiment, you are understand the elastic property of the material. It is elasticity. Elasticity is a property of a material of regaining original shape or size of the material after the removal of external forces which is applied to the deformed material. So, in the first part of the experiment, so let us understand what is known as rigidity modulus. Rigidity modulus is one property of the material. So, as we know, Hooke's law states that stress is directly proportional to strain within the elastic limit. The ratio of the stress and strain is equal to a constant called as modulus. There are 3 types of the modulus. One is a Young's modulus, second one is a rigidity modulus, and third one is a bulk modulus. Now here, using this setup, we are determining the rigidity modulus of the material of the bar, or wire. The material of the wire is iron. So rigidity modulus is the ratio of the shearing stress to the shearing strain. So in let us know the different steps of the experiment. First you find out make the initials of the experiment. The initials are, these are the apparatus given here, one circular disc is a rectangular disc, your wire is given. Okay. You find the mass of the circular disc, radius of the circular disc. By finding the diameter using a linear scale, you take down the diameter and by 2 gives you radius. Find the radius of this circular disc, mass of this circular disc. Then calculate the moment of inertia of the circular disc by using the formula I will show you. So next initials of the experiment is you take this length of the rectangular disc and breadth of the rectangular disc. Okay. Then mass of the rectangular disc. Let me make a list given in the observation part, and then find the length of the wire using a scale, okay, linear scale, and find the diameter of the wire using a screw gauge. Maybe you are familiar how to use screw gauge. I will show you now. Look, come to the part of the experiment to determine part of the experiment. Look, from these equations you will determine moment of inertia of the circular one, that is I1 is equal to mr squared by 2, where I is mass of the circular disc, r is the radius of the circular disc, and you calculate I1, that is in kg meter square. So next, take the mass of the rectangular plate, m dash as m dash, L is the length of this rectangular plate, B is the breadth of the rectangular plate, and calculate I2, that is the moment of inertia of rectangular plate. Next, come to the another part, that is for finding the diameter of the wire. You follow this step. Maybe you did the same in PU. Look, the first part, you find out the least count of the screw gauge. Every instrument, physical instrument has its own least count. For example, this is a linear scale. It also has a least count of 1 millimeter. Similarly, screw gauge is also has its own least count. Is determined using the formula pitch divided by total number of head scale divisions. What is pitch? Same as in the cricket word used, pitch is distance between the two wickets. Here also, the distance between the two division on the pitch scale is known as the pitch. Look, there are number of graduations are given here. The distance between the two divisions is the pitch. Is determined using the formula distance moved on the pitch scale divided by total number of head scale given rotation given head scale rotation given to the pitch screw. This is a pitch screw. This is a pitch scale, and this our circular scale is called as a head scale, and this is a pitch scale. This is a Milde screw or pitch screw, head screw. This is called head screw or Milde screw. Look, first you find the bring this to initial position. Give five full rotation. One rotation is 0 to 0 is a one rotation. Look, this is 0. You notice that there is a one line, horizontal line given. This line is called as a pitch line. So from its initial position, 0 to 0 is a one rotation, 0 to 0 is a one rotation, second rotation, third rotation, fourth rotation, fifth rotation. Look, for 5 rotation given to the head screw, 5 divisions is moved. One division value is a 1 millimeter. For 5 millimeter is moved for 5 rotation given to head square. 5 millimeter is moved for 5 rotation. So pitch is equal to 1 millimeter. Now pitch is 1 millimeter. Number of head scale divisions are 100. So you will get the least count of the instrument 0.01 millimeter. You can take also this in centimeter. This value by dividing 10, 0.001 centimeter is the least count of the given instrument screw gauge. Come to the finding zero error. So every instrument sometimes has zero error. For example, if this scale is some erosion there, so if 1 millimeter is eroded, so for the measurement you should correct the error if any. So for that, by measuring that how much of the error is, you should correct that. Similarly here, this instrument screw gauge also has some error. The error is correction is required for the zero error. Zero error means in its initial position. This is if you give a little sound, a small sound. So look at the reading. Look, this 0 should coincide with the pitch line for the correct instrument. But here, if the 0 is moves above of the pitch line, so there is a negative error. If 0 of the head scale moves below of the pitch line, like this, I will show you a small diagram. This is a pitch line, say. This is a head screw. So this is the main above, which is a 10, below of which is a 90. Say there are 10 divisions between 0 and 10 and 0 and 90. So error, this much is the error. How much is? There are almost say 10. Minus 10 is the error, 0 error. If 5 divisions moves above, minus 5 is the error. Like you find the error if any in the instrument. In some cases, the 0 of the pitch line moves below of this, the 0 error is positive. For the above case, 0 error is negative. If pitch line is exactly coincide with the 0 of the head scale, so 0 error is 0, no error for this case. So that is the estimation of the error. If any you find for this instrument especially, there is a 5 divisions moves above, so minus 5 is the error. Minus 5 is the error. Now come to the measurement of the diameter of the wire. So our aim is to find the radius. How can you find radius? Its thickness represents the diameter. So find the thickness at different 3 trial in order to minimize the error. So and then you calculate the mean value of the radius of the wire at different 3 positions. Look, this is the first position. Hold the object like this in between the 2 jaws given. These are the 2 jaws. Notice the distance on the pitch scale. No distance is moved on pitch scale. So reading on the pitch scale is 0. Now notice the pitch scale reading on the pitch scale. So here no divisions is covered. So 0 is the pitch scale reading, and there are 100 divisions on the head scale. Among this is 50th division is coincide. 50 is the HSR. So correction, minus 50 minus of minus 5 is 55. 55 is the HSR. So total reading is 0.55 in millimeter is the. Here this is a total reading, So that much is the diameter of the wire. Of course, 0.55 is the diameter of the wire. Half of that is the radius. So like in this way, you follow 3 trials at different 3 positions. Here also 1. So pitch scale is 0. Head scale is 50. You write down the same. Error is mentioned. You add the error. Make the correction. Again in the third position, 0 is the PSR. 51 is the HSR. 51 is the HSR. So, so totally you will get different 3 position readings. Take the average. That is the mean diameter of the wire. Take the half the value of the diameter. It gives you radius of the wire. Of course, that is the first part, initial part of the experiment. So now you calculate the moment of inertia of the circular body using this equation. That is given I1 is equal to mr squared by 2, and calculate the moment of inertia of the rectangular plate by giving equations I2 is equal to m dash into L squared plus b squared by 12. So next comes this second part of the experiment. In the second part, we will determine your aim is to determine rigidity modulus of the wire by using the equation n is equal to 8 pi L by r to the power 4 into I by t squared. Here L is the length of the wire. We did this. R is the radius of the wire. I is the moment of I by t squared is the moment of inertia of the and time period of the value. So that for finding that I by t squared, you first I1 find I1 and find T1. T1 means the time period of the torsional oscillations of the body. So that to suspend this body to the wire that is fixed at one point, and the plane the suspension should be perpendicular to the surface of the plane of the circular body. So this is a setup. Now you give a mark in order to find its mean position. So with respect to this index, you give the small average amplitude value, set the body rotate, you give a couple, small couple, it produces a torsional oscillations. Okay, so these are the torsional oscillations. You take a time of 1 oscillation. You are not familiar, you are not able to find a correct value. That's why you take the time of 10 oscillation, and in 2 trials you find the value of the time of the 10 oscillations of a circular body and mean value, and by 10 gives you time of a single oscillation. So use a clock here. 1 oscillation means if a body moves from here quarter oscillation, this is a half one, and this is another half. This is one oscillation. Okay. Now look at the clock. Start, stop, reset. Right. Okay. Let us find take the time of the 10 oscillation. Okay. Quarter oscillation. Now this is one complete oscillation. Like count the time of the 10 oscillation. Second oscillation. Third oscillation. Fourth. Fifth oscillation. Sixth. Seventh oscillation. Eighth. Ninth. Be ready. At the end of the 10th oscillation, stop the clock. 10th oscillation. So what's the time? 52 seconds. This is the time of 10 oscillation. You write down the value in the tabular column given in the trial one for circular disc, and the value of the time for the 10 oscillation is 52 seconds. So in the second trial also you perform the experiment for the again another in the another trial for the 10 time of the 10 oscillation. Take the mean value that by 10 gives you. So now the value of the time of the single oscillation is 5.2 seconds. Similarly, repeat the same for the rectangular body. Same here also. So remove this one, suspend the rectangular body as shown. Carefully, the mass is more than 1 kg. So when you are not operate properly, if it is fall down on your leg, whatever foot, maybe damage. Be careful in operating all this. Then, so put a mark. This is the reference index. Similarly, as the previous one, the circular body, I also said the rectangular body also oscillate about its axis, perpendicular axis, and take the time of 10 oscillation in 2 trials. So I will show you one trial. For maximum amplitude, amplitude means maximum displacement of the body from its mean position is the amplitude. So these are all we are discussed in the theory of vibrations. You remember all these parameters is known as amplitude. Okay, this is circular means torsional oscillations. So one oscillation is one complete cycle. So from this point here, half and second half. This is one oscillation. Okay. So if some air resists the oscillation so that its amplitude goes on decreases. Similarly, these are called as a example for the damped oscillations or damped vibration that were discussed in the theory of vibrations. Of course, look. Same thing. Set the clock, reset the clock, start the clock from the mean position. This is quarter oscillation. This is a one complete oscillation. Like count the time of the 10 complete oscillations. This is second one, second oscillation. Third one. Fourth. Fifth. Sixth. This is seventh. Eighth. Ninth. Look at this, it was 1 minute. 10. So around 66 seconds is the time of 10 oscillation for is took by a rectangular body. So in this way you find the second trial also. Take the mean value that is the time of 10 oscillations and that by 10 gives you a time of a single oscillation took by a second, that is body, that is a rectangular body. Now find out I1 value. I1 value determine using the formula. I1 is equal to mr squared by 2, and T1 is from the experiment you will get the T1 value. Now calculate I1 by T1 squared in the worksheet and tabulate into the tabular column. Similarly, calculate I2 value using the equation m dash into L squared plus B squared by 12. That is, you have to calculate, evaluate in the worksheet, and T2, that is you obtain from experiment, and I2 by T2 squared you calculate in the separate worksheet and tabulate the result into the tabular column. Take the mean value of these two, that is the mean value of the I by T squared, it is obtained from experiment. So this is second part of the experiment. After you are finding I by T squared value, substitute the data into this equation. So you are initially perform the length of the wire, radius of the wire, moment of I by T squared mean value is obtained from the previous experiment, and calculate the n, where n is a rigidity modulus of the given material of the wire. So rigidity modulus of the material of the wire is, you report the result. The unit of this is in Newton per meter squared. Since the rigidity modulus is the shearing stress to the shearing strain, stress the unit is in Newtons per meter squared, the strain no unit, so Newton per meter squared is the unit of the rigidity modulus. Okay, dear students, this is another experiment. So here the title of the experiment is measurement of resistivity by 4-probe method. The aim of this experiment is to measure the resistivity of the given material at a different temperature and to estimate the energy gap of the given material. The material given is kept here in the base of the plate given now. Look, this is the material kept and it is mounted on the plate. There are 4 probes are in contact with this material. This is a semiconductor material and the name of the material is germanium. Maybe you are very familiar with the germanium. Germanium is belong, and these 4 probes are connected to the power pack, and this is a oven. Here the temperature, this is heated, so you have to heat the material to a minimum temperature, since the material is in a brittle in nature, so that you don't try to heat for a more maximum temperature. Up to 100 degrees is enough to heat this material, of course. So 4 probes are connected to the power system. Look at the power system. This is the main switch, and there are 2 meters are given. One is a current meter is set up here, and the switch on the AC mains here for a 4 probe setup, and put to the digital panel meter in the current. So this is for the current meter. Sorry, this one is the current meter. You can measure the current here and set the current using this knob to a average of 5 milliamps is flowing, constant current flowing through the setup. Okay, so to set this into a 5 milliamps, and again now put the digital panel meter in a voltage measuring mode. Sorry, let us set up this for the constant 5 milliampere. This is a variable one. So this is a potentiometer now, approximately nearer to a 5 milliamps. You have to set this. Now change this into put this into a panel meter voltage measuring mode. This is a voltage measuring mode, so you can measure the voltage, and you have to keep this. There are 2 modes given for the voltage measurement. First 1 mode and a 10 mode. It is out of scale, that's why you keep this into 10 mode, and this value is multiplied by 10. So what is the value here is, you see, so 22.9, that is multiplied by 10, 229 millivolts is the voltage. This we can record it here from the voltmeter, and that is the adjustment. Now start your experiment. So you are performing the experiment for different temperature, so that by using a thermometer kept in a oven, we switch on the power pack. So the oven start heated. The thermometer, this is a volumetric thermometer, start to record the temperature in the oven. Look at the red, that's what mercury is rising through a this what bore given, a fine bore given in the glass rod. So since temperature increases, volume of the mercury is expands and it rises through a fine bore given in the glass rods. That is why it is called as a volumetric thermometer. So the readings is given here. You can record the reading. Carefully you read. There are number given for recording this one also. Right. Okay. Let us see the experimental part. Maybe you are familiar how to adjust the current and how to switch over the same switch to a measurement of the current and measurement of the voltage. And this is the mode selection for the measurement of the voltage. Now switch on the oven. So now the temperature in the here is measured from the oven. It is seen here. So when the temperature attains in the thermometer 35 degree, you note down the voltage in the voltmeter. Like for every 5 degree once after rising temperature, you note down the voltage changes and record in the instrument. So from 35 to for every 5 degree once up to 85 degree Celsius. Convert degree Celsius into degree Kelvin, and respective voltage also you note down. As increasing temperature, voltage is start decreasing. I will say you what is the mechanism of decreasing of voltage here in the case of a given semiconductor chip, semiconductor material. Of course, rho, the resistivity of the material, can be determined using the equation rho is equal to V by I into 0.213 is a constant taken, and V is the voltage here, I is the current chosen. No, it is set into a constant 5 milliamps, so that you have to work out all the rho value in the worksheet. You calculate all the rho value and tabulate the results. You can observe that as temperature is increases, resistivity is also decreases. Why? Let us see. It is a intrinsic behavior of the material. What is the mechanism of decreasing of the resistivity of the given material? I will explain you clearly. The given material is a germanium. Germanium is belongs to it. That is the fourth group in the periodic table. The number of electrons for the case of germanium is 32 electrons. That is what is called electronic configuration of this is a 1s2, 2p, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p6, 3d10, 4s2, 4p6. There are total of 32 electrons. So this is a K shell, this is a L shell, this is a M shell, this is a N shell, outermost shell. In the outermost shell, not P6 idu, estidu P2 idu barutide, P2. That's P2, total of 32 electrons. So now, in order to achieve the closed shell configuration in the outermost shell, N shell, P subshell is 6 of 4 more electrons. So it's because of that it has a 4 valency. So hence the 4 valency, because the germanium is belongs to 4th group in the periodic table. Look at the structure of the germanium. If you have imagine one germanium atom at the center surrounded with 4 germanium atoms, since every germanium atoms has a 4 valency. Okay, 4 valency. The germanium, every germanium atom seeks 4 more electrons to achieve the closed shell configuration. Here, one each from the surrounding germanium atom is shared to the central one. Total of 4 electrons are shared to central germanium atom. So then it is in the quasi-fluid state. So this is achieved in the closed shell configuration. In this way, you can assume that the structure of the germanium, all the germanium atoms in the lattice are shared 8 electrons. So that is why at the temperature T is equal to 0 degree Kelvin, all the electrons are shared with the neighboring ones. So all the electrons are engaged in covalent bonds. No free electron available at a temperature T is equal to 0 degree Kelvin. That is why germanium at this temperature behaves as an insulating material. Okay, but when temperature T is greater than 0 degree Kelvin, some of the bonds, covalent bonds, are broken. So hence it releases electron hole pair free. So vacancy has a tendency of occupying electrons, and neighboring electron occupy the vacant site. So moment of electron takes place. Since it carries a charge, now electrical conductivity is achieved here by increasing the temperature. So conductivity as temperature increases. So resistivity start decreases. Since electrical conductivity that is sigma is inversely proportional to resistivity. As resistivity is proportional to 1 by sigma, sigma is increases, rho is start decreases. In this way, you can see the decreasing of resistivity when you are taking the reading of the voltage for different temperature. After determining the rho value start decreases, and at the same time voltage is decreases because we know the equation Ohm's law. V is equal to IR. As temperature increases, the resistance of the material start decreases for the case of a semiconductor. So therefore, voltage start decreases. So in this way, when we see the voltage, say after tabulating the result for a different temperature, V start decreases. So by determining the value of the rho by using the V and I is the constant value, and by using this equation, after determining the different value of the rho in a worksheet and tablet here, we can observe that rho is decreases. That is what one observation of our experiment, to measure the resistivity of the given material at different temperature. That's the first part of the experiment. And next, in the second part, you have to determine or estimate the energy gap of the given material. Given material, as I said, germanium. Germanium is a semiconductor material. You have to determine the energy gap of the germanium. What is the value of the energy gap of the germanium? It is around 0.72 electron volt. Maybe you are familiar. And what is known as energy gap? It's a gap between valence band and conduction band is known as the energy gap. So materials, as we know, classified into three: conductors, insulator, semiconductor. Conductors, energy gaps are overlap. Valence band, conduction band overlap. In the case of insulator, the valence band is separated with a large gap with the conduction band, whereas in the case of semiconductor, it is very narrow. So for the case of germanium, the energy gap, say it is denoted as Eg is equal to 0.72 electron volt. That you have to estimate here using the data of the experiment. So after getting rho value for different temperature, take the log rho, and temperature which is in Kelvin, you take the reciprocal of that, tabulate the result, draw the graph 1 by T versus log rho as shown here. You will get a graph in this way. Since the graph is obtained in this way because of the intrinsic behavior of the semiconductor material, and by taking the slope of the graph, by forming this as a and this as a B, the slope ABC, AB by BC is the slope. So you will get slope of the graph. You substitute the value of the slope of the graph in this equation given for the determination of the energy gap. That is equal to 2K. K is the Boltzmann constant. 2.303 into M. M is the slope. Slope is obtained from graph divided by charge on the electron. So in order to evaluate the energy gap in electron volt, you divide the value by the charge of the electron. Finally, you will get the energy gap of the material in electron volt. By using this equation, you will get the answer in joule. Of course, you have to determine the energy gap of this semiconductor always in energy in electron volt. So you multiply this value what you got in joule by charge of the electron, and then you will get the answer, the energy gap of the material in electron volt. For this material given, the energy gap is around 0.72 electron volt. Okay, and that is the experiment here. By using all the data, you substitute properly and calculate the energy gap. Finally, report your answer. That is energy gap of the given crystal or germanium is something. How much you get experimental value? You substitute here in electron volt. Let's solve your experiment.
Let us verify the Stephen's law by finding the energy radiated by a black body is directly proportional to the fourth power of the absolute temperature. So this is what the Stephen's law tells. So here in the black body spectrum, see, energy radiated by a black body is directly proportional to T power 4. Okay. See, this is the circuit diagram which we used to verify the Stephen's law. We will be using electric bulb. So electric bulb which will be emitting radiations. So the emitted radiations, so that means inside the bulb we have a filament. That filament will be emitting some sort of radiation. So the emission of that radiation is nothing but the filament itself. It is a black body which will be emitting radiation. So we have to prove that should be equal to T power 4. Okay. So let us know how this energy radiated by a block body is directly proportional to T power 4. So in our experiment, we are finding by varying the voltage of the filament, bulb filament, we are finding the current. Okay. So let me do the circuit connections first. Circuit connections. So we have a power supply here. So connect from positive of the power supply to the positive of the circuit. So for your confirmation, you can keep this circuit diagram to the right side of your experimental kit. So next, see the negative of the power supply goes to the negative of the circuit. Here we don't have a voltmeter. We have to connect it for the voltmeter, that is given here. So positive of the voltmeter connected to positive and negative of the voltmeter connected to negative, and we have a ammeter here. So the positive of the ammeter goes to positive and negative goes to negative, and we have connected the bulb in between these two terminals. So here we have two bulbs. These bulb will be acts as a block body. So as we know, perfect block body doesn't exist in the nature. So this bulb is a representative of a block body. So now let us know how to do this experiment. Then I'll explain how this energy radiated by a block body will be proportional to the fourth power of the absolute temperature. So let us switch on the kit. So this is the voltage varying knob. So we can vary the voltage by moving this knob. By varying the voltage, let us find the current. So for the corresponding voltage, note down the corresponding current. So let us start it from 3 volts. Set this voltage for 3 volts and note down the corresponding current. See, as I am increasing the voltage, see the radiation emitted by the bulb will be increasing because I am increasing the voltage. So note down the corresponding current for the 3 volts. Then increase the voltage by 0.2 volts. So now I will set it for 3.2. Slowly you have to vary the voltage. So for 3.2, note down the corresponding current. So like that you vary the voltage by 0.2 volts. Note down the current up to 5 volts. For 5 volts till 5 volts, note down the current. See, as after measuring the current for the corresponding voltage, see, find the resistance and find the power, then find the log of this resistance and find the log of this power. So now we have a question that, so why we have to find the resistance and the power? So here we are telling energy radiated by a block body is directly proportional to T power 4, and here in our experiment we are finding resistance and power, because see, already we know that so resistance is directly proportional to temperature. See, for an usual conductor, say for example a copper, if you increase the temperature of a material, the resistance is also increases. Okay, so like that, so we have find power also, that is energy dissipated by the body, that is we can write, so power P is proportional to E, or we can say E is proportional to P. So here we have a formula that energy radiated by a block body is directly proportional to T power 4. So now we know that so R is proportional to T and P is proportional to E. In the place of E we can write P is proportional to, in the place of T we can write R. So R to the power 4. Okay, so now, so apply log on both sides. So I'll remove this proportionality constant. See, P is equal to some constant A into R to the power 4. Okay, so now apply log on both sides. Log on both sides. So log P is equal to log A plus 4 log R.
After simplification.
So after simplification we are getting like this. See, so you neglect this constant and simplify this log P by log R, which will be equal to 4. Okay. See, so log P by log R, which will be equal to 4. That means we will be plotting the graph. We will be plotting the graph log P versus log R. The slope of the graph is log P by log R. That will be equal to 4. So that is how we are verifying the Stephen's law.
Let us know the experiment about the optical fiber. So in this experiment, your aim is, title of the experiment is optical fiber, and the aim of the experiment is to measure the numerical aperture, V number, and number of modes of propagation in an optical fiber is the aim of this experiment. And this is the optical fiber. Look, actually, optical fiber is a device. So fiber of transparent glass, made of transparent glass or plastic, used to guide light for propagation, and this is mostly used in communication, telecommunication. Optical fiber is fabricated using a transparent glass or plastic material, fine quality of plastic material. So a cylindrical type core material, similarly like a pencil. Look, in this pencil, the graphite is similarly called a core, and it is surrounded by another glass, fine quality of glass or plastic material called as a cladding. So it is a cylindrical type, both are. The difference is both core and cladding are made of the same material, but thing is the difference in refractive indices of the material made up of core and cladding. So here refractive index of core is little greater than the refractive index of the cladding. That is the difference of material used for the making of optical fiber. So both of it is to protect the core and cladding from the unexpected stresses. A polyurethane jacket covers the covering the cladding. Okay? That is used to protect the fiber, that is core and cladding, from unexpected stresses. So it causes damage to the fiber. So this is the construction. Actually, this system consists of, look, this is an optical bench. Optical bench on which this one is the optical microscope. This is a cable. There are two stands used to connect the optical fiber, and this one is a diode laser with AC system is connected here. So from which AC is projected to the microscope, and it is next by focusing through the fiber, and light is propagated through it and receives at the other end. The principle of this, working principle of the optical fiber is a total internal reflection. So let us know what is total internal reflection. See, when a ray of light travels from denser medium to rarer medium, that is a refractive index, higher refractive index of the medium to the low refractive index of the medium, say water or glass, or higher refractive index glass or lower refractive index glass. Okay, see, so suppose when a ray travels from higher refractive index to a lower refractive index, refraction takes place at the point of refraction O. Say this is O, right? Say there theta 1 is less than theta c, and this is theta 2, angle of refraction. So here refracted ray bends away from the normal drawn. Maybe you are very familiar. Next, Further, the angle of incidence is increases, which is equal to theta c. Their angle of refraction is equal to 90 degree, and their refracted ray grazes the x and y axis, or medium of separation of the axis of medium of separation of higher refractive index and then low refractive index. That is core. We call here core and cladding. Okay, very clear, man? Okay. So here, next case, if same thing. The ray of light travels from a higher refractive index, that is say water, or higher refractive index core medium, to a low refractive index cladding medium. There at an angle of incidence theta 1 is greater than theta c, critical angle, then the incident ray that is travel from denser to rarer is reflect back into the same medium, and that is known as total internal reflection. Okay, right. Now come to the experiment. That is the working principle of the optical fiber. This is the angle of incidence at the cross section which is propagated through the core medium is the theta naught, and here if theta the refracted ray within the core medium travels in the core and strikes the interface of the core and cladding. This is a core and this is a cladding, right? Cladding. So that since refractive index of the core is little higher than the refractive index of the cladding, n1 should be slightly greater than n2. Hence, total internal reflection takes place here. The incident ray at the point say O or A is reflect back into the core medium itself. Similarly, there also this incident ray is incident at an angle that is theta greater than the critical angle. Hence, this one. Incident ray reflect back into the same medium. Here also total internal reflection takes place. Like that, there are number of total internal reflection that takes place in the core medium and cladding, separation of the core and cladding medium. Finally, the rays emerges out at the other end. This is the working. So after total internal reflection, the light spot is incident on the screen. So you can see the light spot which is seen incident on the screen. So this is the screen. You adjust the position of the screen to 0, which is given on the scale given on the of the optical bench, and notice that bring this screen to 1 centimeter away from the 0 point which is chosen. So that is a L or fiber end, and this is L. L is equal to 1 centimeter, and so you can got the spot. No, the circle here. So now find the horizontal diameter and vertical diameter of this circle, so that mark to the two opposite end tangents, no, on horizontal side and also on a vertical side. Draw the two opposite tangents, no, here. So on the this is a graph sheet, you know, equidistant 1 millimeter equidistant lines are given, so you can find the length of the diameter on the screen. So diameter along the horizontal and along the vertical, you can get that readings. You have to tabulate into the column. In the first case, the distance of the fiber end from the screen, this one, this is the fiber end, this distance, and this is the screen. So you have chosen fiber end as 0 and screen 1 centimeter. You kept here at 1 centimeter away, and that is 1 centimeter length of the distance of fiber end from the screen. And diameter from the scale of which is given on the graph sheet, you find horizontal diameter and vertical diameter. Take the mean value of the diameter and calculate theta naught. Using this relation, it is arrived after the derivation that is we are explaining the theory part. That is theta naught represents the acceptance angle that is equal to tan inverse of d by 2l. Now you have to bring away this screen from 0, that is up to fiber end, again 1 centimeter, that is a total of 2 centimeter away from the fiber spot, and you have to change the graph sheet to got the diameter to evaluate or measure the diameter, so that you take another position, measure the diameter of the second case. For the intensive circle, you draw two opposite tangents along a horizontal and vertical, and by counting the lines, that much is the millimeter, convert the same into centimeter. Here also along vertical, you count the lines, how many are there, each one is a 1 millimeter, and totally you find the vertical diameter That readings your tablet here, horizontal diameter and vertical diameter. Find the total average value of the diameter and calculate the theta naught. Whereas theta naught is nothing but the angle, it is nothing but acceptance angle. It is defined as the maximum angle of incidence for the ray of light of the at the cross section of the core of an optical fiber to undergo total internal reflection, and sign of the off angle of acceptance is known as the numerical aperture. It is nothing but a light gathering capacity of the optical fiber in other way. So numerical aperture you calculate for each case. This is the second case. Now bring the screen from the fiber end to the 3 centimeter away. So now move another 1 centimeter. This is total of 3 centimeter. 3 centimeter. Yes. Or 4 centimeter. So first one was 1 centimeter, second one for the second 2 centimeter, third one for the 3 centimeter. 3 trial is enough. Okay, so 3 centimeter. Bring the graph sheet to measure this. For the intensive spot, you draw 2 tangents on either side for the horizontal and for the vertical. So again find what is the diameter of the horizontal and what is the diameter along the vertical. So tabulate the result here into the column. Horizontal diameter and vertical diameter, take the average value, calculate the theta naught individually in the worksheet and calculate the numerical aperture in the worksheet. Now take the average of the numerical aperture, that is a numerical report to the result column, that is the numerical aperture. You work out theta naught and numerical aperture individually. Finally you calculate the V number. A mode of light can be thought of equivalent to a ray of light. The number of modes n propagated through a core of a diameter d can be estimated from the parameter known as a V number, given by V is equal to pi d by lambda into numerical aperture. Numerical aperture is already you are determined. D is the diameter given. Take this as a 0.1 millimeter. And wavelength of the laser light used is a 650 nanometer. Using these parameters like d and lambda, numerical aperture is already determined now by using the experiment. Pi is a constant. Now calculate the V number. Now using this V number, calculate the number of modes n, that is equal to V squared by 2. So, okay. Then that results you have to tabulate in the result column. Numerical aperture, average value of the 3 cases. V number, you can calculate V number in the worksheet and you have to make a list here in the result and number of modes here. Okay, that's the end of the experiment.